Imagine a supertanker loaded with nearly 2 million barrels of Venezuelan oil sailing through the Caribbean toward Cuba. Suddenly, US helicopters and special forces appear out of nowhere, take control of the ship, and tow it to Houston. This is not an action movie. This really happened in early December 2025. Today we are going to break down the operation that seized the tanker skipper, the furious reactions from Nicolás Maduro, and whether this episode represents the beginning of a naval blockade in the Caribbean. Stay until the end to understand the trends that could change the game in the region. On December 10, 2025, the United States Coast Guard, with support from the FBI, the Pentagon, and an elite team called the Maritime Security and Response Team, carried out a precise operation near the Venezuelan coast. The action involved 2 helicopters, 10 Marines, and 10 Coast Guard agents. The target was the skipper, a large tanker that has been under sanctions since 2022 for being part of a network responsible for transporting Venezuelan, Iranian, and even North Korean oil in direct violation of sanctions imposed by Washington. The ship departed from the port of Puerto La Cruz, Venezuela, carrying about 1.85 million barrels of heavy crude oil. The official destination was the port of Matanzas, Cuba, but US investigations reveal a much larger scheme. According to these investigations, part of the oil remains in Cuba for laundering operations, while the rest is sent to China. There, the product is resold on the global market, and the profits are funneled back to the regimes of Maduro and Havana. The Cuban state-owned company involved, Cuba Metals, has already been sanctioned and this year alone purchased about 65,000 barrels per day of Venezuelan oil, a level considered significant. Donald Trump personally announced that this was the largest tanker ever seized. Attorney General Pam Bondi confirmed that the action enforced a warrant for providing support to foreign terrorist organizations. The skipper was flying a false Guyanese flag and is now heading to Houston. Because it is too large for the port, the oil will be offloaded onto smaller vessels. Venezuela's reaction was immediate. Nicolás Maduro described the episode as criminal naval piracy, blatant theft, and even an attack worthy of pirates of the Caribbean. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez stated that the Venezuelan government will appeal to international bodies. She also linked the case to what Caracas calls the theft of Citgo, a PDVSA subsidiary seized by the United States in 2019. This episode is not isolated. It is part of an escalation that includes economic sanctions since 2022, an increased US naval presence in the Caribbean under the pretext of counter-narcotics operations, and the designation of Maduro as a terrorist leader. There is also a reward of $50 million for information leading to the capture of the Venezuelan president, within a policy aimed at reinforcing US influence in Latin America. Historically, actions like this recall past naval blockades, such as the Cuban quarantine of 1962. Even so, Washington claims this is merely the enforcement of sanctions, not a formal act of war. The skipper was carrying enough oil to guarantee weeks of supply for Cuba, which is heavily dependent on Venezuela. Networks like this move billions of dollars and help finance allies such as Iran, North Korea, and China. According to Pentagon sources, the United States is preparing for further interceptions of vessels transporting Venezuelan oil. In the Caribbean, the US military presence continues to grow. Experts warn of a possible siege aimed at pressuring regime change in Caracas. Since oil represents about 90% of Venezuela's exports, and sanctions have already cut billions in revenue since 2019. The debate now divides analysts. For Washington, the action is legal and necessary. For Caracas, it is imperialism and theft of resources. The central question remains, is this the beginning of a naval blockade? Formally, no, but the precedent has been set. In the end, the skipper case exposes the high stakes and the complex geopolitical dynamics that continue to unfold in the Caribbean, with direct impacts on the region and on global energy markets.